Oxford whilst I was volunteering in my second and third year at university, a girl with autism. And she was at the local SEND school, and I used to go and help on the school trips as we went out. And to spend nearly 2 years with that young girl, trying to help her with her communication, teaching her very basic skills, but also teaching me about the importance of making sure that every child, regardless of their situation, should be cared for, should be loved, and should be have every opportunity available to them, made me realise that it was teaching that I wanted to go into. And I was delighted to go into the profession, and never did I think, back in 2011 when I was doing my PGCE, that I'd be sat on the stage as the Minister for School Standards. I know maybe at the Institute of Education, whether they're proud to have me as former alumni or not, I'm not sure. But, you know, I was proud to study there and learn a lot, and I had some great tutors, Ben Hammond, Jeremy Hayward, who were excellent at guiding me through that process. And, you know, for me, there's some really key priorities. There is the education investment areas that were announced, those 50-plus areas that I know Diana worked incredibly hard on before I entered the department. We've got those 24 priority areas, and it won't shock people that when Diana showed me her spreadsheet of those schools that have got 2 requires improvements or inadequates, that they overlap absolutely with the priority education investment areas. And we're going to go in and rip up. I won't nick Diana's number because I know it's her favourite number to do. But when you hear the number of kids stuck in those schools, it's unacceptable. And we're not going to be ashamed to be interventionists to make sure those children have every opportunity, because every day in a kid's life lost is another opportunity missed. And we can't allow that to happen. The other 2 key areas are that we should be proud as a party on the National Tutoring Programme, and we haven't done enough celebration of that. Over 2 million, what I call opportunities given to kids. And I was out across Sandwell and Wolverhampton only last week, hearing from kids and from teachers who have benefited from this system, enabling those who are most disadvantaged to be able to catch up on their learning. And what was most important to me was kids saying that they had confidence to now sit in the classroom, and when they heard some of those things, whether that be in science, maths or English, taught to them, they felt that they belonged in the classroom. And that's what we've done with the National Tutoring Programme. So despite Labour's moaning and groaning, actually we've invested over £5 billion in catch-up, which is enormous. And then finally, as Kit said about the teaching profession, we've just accredited 179 teacher training providers. And that's because we're unashamedly pro high-quality expectations of the teacher training courses that we want, making sure that those teachers not only have a evidence-based-led curriculum for them to deliver to their pupils, but the right mentoring to get some world-class mentoring that meant that I felt confident entering the workforce. But there'll be stuff that, like the Early Careers Framework now, which is a 2-year course with mentoring and mentors trained as well. We've got these MPQs. I've got 60,000 fully funded MPQs I want every teacher to sign up and take, and they've been, again, robustly looked at, evidence-based and evidence-led, to make sure that we have teachers delivering in the classroom what we know works, rather than what pedagogy that some in the past want to live on, this idea that will deliver, even though it continues to fail too many children in our classroom. My role, as Kit said, is to champion teachers. I'll be unashamedly doing that, but I'll also be working with our trade unions to make sure that we are out there looking at how we can improve recruitment and retention, because we want every person to come into this workforce and realise what a great profession it is.
Well done. Very good. Very good, and we're very proud to have you, Jonathan, too. It's great to have you on the team. A longest-standing member of the team, Diana Barron, who's been a member in the department for a bit now, but very focused, as Jonathan said, on this issue of kids in 2RI schools. A falling number, but one that we need to accelerate. Please give us your take on that number.
So lovely to be here with you all, and as I have the enormous privilege of being the Education Minister in the House of Lords. But as the Secretary of State said, one of the things that I'm particularly focused on is those 700,000 children who are in schools that are failing and have failed for some time. And it's a small number in the context of the whole. As the Secretary of State said, our predecessors have done an extraordinary job in turning around our education system. But if you're a child in a secondary school in Knowsley, 50% of kids in Knowsley are in failing schools. That's just not okay. So I'm relentlessly focused on trying to bring that number down in partnership with Jonathan and Kelly And there's what we want to do, which is bring that number down radically over the next 2 years. There's how we want to do it, which is incentivising quality and educational outcomes for our children. And there's why we want to do it. And as Lord Harris, who set up Harris Academies, said, you can make a mistake with your first job, you can make a mistake with your second job, your third job, there's still a fourth job, but you only get one education. We want our children to have a great education.
Very good. And then, friends, last but not least, Andrea Jenkins, who many of you will know, who's our skills minister, looking at FE and HE. Now, critical to our skills agenda, Andrea, is the participation of employers. Right? We can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. As you introduce yourself, perhaps you could talk about the work you're going to do to bring more businesses in to offer apprenticeships, because we're not short of applicants. Right? Lots of young people want to do them. We now need places.
Completely agree, Secretary of State. I'm very proud to be part of this whole skills agenda, because to me, we are future-proofing our economy. So I think a big focus for me is actually looking at, as you rightly said, Secretary of State, is engagement with employers, and how can we make the process easier for employers? Because especially if you're a one-man band where you wear several hats, it can't be a cumbersome process. It's got to be easy. And on top of that, though, what I'd like to focus on, what are the emerging industries? What are the skills needed for our economy of tomorrow? As a lot of people might know, I'm very pro-Brexit, and I think this is an opportunity. I want to see these homegrown skills. And so, and other things that I really want to focus on are not only is access to education. To me, for too long, the focus has always been on academia. And I think that, we've got to be proud of our academia, the universities. We have some of the greatest universities in this world. And part of my brief is international education. And I'll certainly be selling, this across the globe. But the other aspect, I think we need to actually ensure that not only at teacher level, at parent level, throughout the education landscape, that vocational qualifications and technical qualifications are seen as equally as important. So raising that esteem, I think, is definitely going to be a focus. And another thing we should be proud of is, the amount of apprenticeships we've had is amazing. I was speaking to somebody who'd worked in the sector for over 30 years, and she told me that under Brown's government, she'd really tried to push him to actually mention apprenticeships once per year. And look at us where we're at now. It's amazing. We've currently got 300,000 apprenticeships on the go at the moment. But on top of that, it's the T levels. I mean, I went to the Northwest and on T-level results day, and I wish I could bottle that energy I saw there. Students were coming up to me and saying it's changed their lives. Getting that work experience is a great social mobility manoeuvre. Not everybody, it's easy for middle-class families to actually get the work experience, get the internships in MPs' offices. But working-class backgrounds, like myself, like many on this panel, it's much harder to have those opportunities. So to actually have the work experience element that apprenticeships and T-levels offer on the CV, we're really giving a better start to those young people. And finally, we've got one person clapping. Oh, thank you. And finally, Secretary of State, I'm immensely proud of what we're bringing in 2025. It's a lifelong learning entitlement. So if you think learning is not all about school leavers, and I think this is going to be so important that we're really changing the way the landscape of education is funded. And this is really going to help those people who look after loved ones, people who have been out the jobs market or was never trained before. It gives them some great opportunities and flexibility in the learning system. So I think that's an incredibly exciting place to be.
Brilliant. Well, friends, the flashing number is telling me that we're out of time, but I hope that you've got a sense of the enthusiasm and commitment from the team, because as Jonathan said, we are all appraised of the fact that every day counts. Those of us who've been lucky enough to have children will know that they don't hang about. They're gone in a flash. They grow up in a blink. And that just a week, a day, a month of substandard, missed education, whether it's in college, university, or right through the school system, can have a huge impact on their life chances. We've brought about, over the last decade, enormous success, a huge leap forward. We recognise that the work we're doing is building on that success. But now we need to be impatient and demanding on behalf of all those kids that we're looking after, making sure that they get the best that they can, the best foundation they can, to build a really fantastic life for themselves in our wonderful country. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you.
Please welcome the Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice, Brandon Lewis.
Conference, it is brilliant to be back with you here in Birmingham. It's always a time that I enjoy and one that I look forward to, as I know so many of you do. It's a time for us to come together as one Conservative family to reaffirm our common cause. And I'm joined today by my brilliant new ministerial team who are here with us as well. Rachel McLean, Mike Freer, Rob Butler, Gareth Johnson, and our PPSs, Aaron Bell and Gareth Bacon, working alongside me with our Lords Minister, Lord Bellamy. And thank you to all of them for being here and the great work they are already doing in the Ministry of Justice. Now, Conference, our party has a long and proud history. And it's a party that has had that pride around our determination to deliver freedom and opportunity. We have an unwavering belief in integrity and individualism, supported by a robust and unapologetic approach to law and order, public safety, and sound stewardship of the economy. Britain is known as a bastion of law and order, and it's why people invest here as well. Safety and security for ourselves, for our families, at home, in our neighbourhoods, in our schools and our shops, is the bedrock that allows economic growth to flourish. Public safety means peace of mind. It means safer streets and healthier communities. It means local investment and economic opportunity. It's these priorities of safety, of security and of stability for everyone, in every community, in every corner of our country, that we as Conservatives hold dear. At the forefront of that effort are some true hidden heroes. They are the hidden heroes of our society, many of whom are the backbone of our criminal justice system. Our prison and probation staff. They work hard, so hard, every single day to keep the public safe, to keep us all safe from the most serious and prolific offenders in society. Our dedicated courts and tribunal staff who enable justice to be done in courtrooms across the length and breadth of our country join that team. And it's not just the system that matters, it's the people. Now, this has been a tough time for our country, and the criminal justice system is no different. So we cannot shy away from that. We have to face down those difficulties so that we can do what we are always focused on doing: guarantee victims and survivors the access to justice that they deserve. And as your Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary, I can promise you I will do just that. Now, like many of our public services, the judicial system was hit hard by the pandemic. Our courts were closed and justice was therefore delayed and a backlog of cases built up. Now, we've got through the pandemic. Now, I'm determined that we get through those backlogs. I want to make sure that everyone has swift access to justice, whoever they are and wherever they are from. Our justice system should never be, we will not let it be, a lottery. And that's why I've already taken action to address those backlogs. Now, while there are many challenges that have contributed to that backlog, the key to unlocking our clogged up courts will be ending the barrister strike over legal aid fees. That strike action has had a devastating impact on victims, and justice has been delayed in too many cases. That's why in my first few days as Lord Chancellor, I met the Criminal Bar Association. And last week we proposed a comprehensive new package, one that I hope will bring a swift end to the strike. We have to end the revolving door of industrial action, ending a cycle of brinkmanship. We have to ensure, all of us, that we are putting the criminal justice system on a more sustainable footing for the long term. We owe that to victims. Now, that will also allow cases to be heard more quickly for the benefit of all, including victims of some of the most horrific crimes like rape and serious sexual violence. We are overhauling the way that rape and sexual abuse victims are supported through the whole criminal justice system, so that more cases can come to court and more predators are put behind bars. At conference, we have made some good progress on this. Convictions are up by 2/3 on 2020, and they're up by a quarter compared to before the pandemic hit. But I make no bones about it, we have a lot more to do. I'm determined that we do that. And the government has set out some clear actions already for the police, prosecutors and our courts to make sure that more rapists are convicted and are put away. We have invested significantly in support for victims and survivors as well, meaning that more support is there for victims when they first report a crime and more support when their case gets to court. We want to reduce the trauma that's involved in the trial process and improve the quality and reliability of the evidence that courts see as a result of that. For example, victims of rape and serious sexual offences can now pre-record their evidence ahead of trial, avoiding that additional trauma of testifying in a courtroom in front of your accused attacker. We are also piloting the use of independent advisors to guide people through what can be a very difficult and daunting process. And we're boosting the accessibility of support with a new 24/7 rape and sexual abuse support helpline so that people can access the help they need whenever and wherever they need it. But, Conference, we all know that stamping out violence against women and girls does not, cannot, it must not end just at the prison gates. It cannot be right that transgender prisoners, when convicted of serious sexual offences or those who have not had reassignment surgery, are housed in a general women's estate. Conference, this will end. We have a duty of care to all those behind bars. One case of a sex attack or inappropriate relationship formed with a female prisoner by a transgender inmate is one too many, and we've had too many in recent years. Our management of trans prisoners will rely not just on common sense, but we will also work on capacity. If we need to expand our use of the specialist areas for trans prisoners to further protect women in prison, then we will do that. Indeed, as a government, we are committed to creating 20,000 new prison places across the whole of the system by the middle of this decade. And we'll deliver that as well, because prison must be about the punishment of the criminal and protection of the innocent first and foremost. Depriving people who have broken our laws of their liberties to guarantee the rest of us our cherished freedoms is part of what prison is there for. And thanks to our manifesto commitment to recruit 20,000 more police officers, we will be catching and punishing more criminals and preventing crime as we do it. I'm determined to ensure that our prisons keep up with that. But there is more that we need to do to divert people away from prison and away from a life of crime in the first place. We know that hardened career criminals are not born. Sadly, they're made. We will avoid putting some of those convicted of more low-level offences onto that conveyor belt by expanding our world-leading GPS tagging project for neighbourhood crime, targeted at burglars, robbers and thieves who can be a scourge of our communities and our neighbourhoods. This compulsory electronic monitoring and close supervision will mean that police and our probation officers are able to keep an even closer eye on them when they leave prison. Their whereabouts will be known 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the ability to impose robust restrictions or, where necessary, effective house arrest. We will maximise our use of new technology like the GPS tracking, to reduce crime and protect the public from those neighbourhood thugs who too often blight our communities. In doing so, we will reduce crime and play our part in deterring and ending reoffending for more people. These are common sense solutions to sadly all too common problems. This government will also ensure that the very worst offenders are locked up for longer. And our new prison places will be vital in helping us do just that and give a clear message to criminals in society that they will be punished, they will serve time, and our prisons will be there to house them. Those who commit the most heinous crimes and who commit those in a way that continue to be a threat, all of them must be punished, and the public need to know that they will be protected from them. The guarantee of public protection must be the overriding factor in our parole decisions as well, so that we can secure the rightful confidence of both the victims and the public. Now, to do that, I will make sure that the parole board is more accountable and more transparent about the decisions that are made. Just this week, we are due to have the first ever public parole hearing after we reformed the process earlier this year. And that is a big and a good positive step forward. These reforms to the parole process will all play their part in boosting public protection and confidence, improving transparency and accountability, better supporting the victims of some of the country's most horrendous crimes. Better supporting victims and survivors must also mean reducing reoffending, more effective rehabilitation. Prisoners need to ensure that we are making sure that they appreciate the value of hard work and personal responsibility, to have a chance to rebuild their lives and play their part in society when they leave prison. That means that those who have been in prison pay back into their communities and the country's coffers. It's based on the simple principle of fairness, something we can all embrace. And we will do our part. We will equip prisoners with the training and the skills they need to become active participants in the jobs market. We are and have just introduced new legislation to allow prisoners to take up apprenticeships whilst behind bars for the first time, so that those prisoners can help build communities whilst rebuilding their own lives. Conference, these apprenticeships will give them the skills that they need to get onto the jobs market, to get jobs on release and to pay their own way. Now, we know across our economy that we cannot tax our way to growth. We have to make sure that we are creating the conditions for the economy to thrive. Our legal services industry is full of opportunities for growth. It is already worth a positive surplus of £29 billion to the UK economy. It employs over 350,000 people, and it is the foundation for over £250 billion worth of international mergers and acquisitions. Thanks to our values, our belief in the rule of law, our traditions and our history, we are the world's council and the world's courtroom. English law is recognised around the globe. And I will work to promote our exceptional legal services industry to the world and to see it recognised as part of our new post-Brexit free trade agreements. The critical importance of our whole justice system to our country cannot be overstated. It underpins all that we do, all that we achieve, all that we believe in. It impacts everyone, everywhere. I take that responsibility to safeguard and sustain that very seriously, because I know it means peace of mind for all of us and the people we serve. It defines our quality of life. Our justice system is the foundation of what makes Britain great, and it is the envy of the world. For Great Britain is truly great when we have safe streets, healthy neighbourhoods and thriving communities. That is what we as Conservatives believe in. It's what we strive for. And Conference, it's what this Conservative government will deliver. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman.
It's such a privilege to be here. Being Home Secretary is not just a tremendous honour. Keeping the British people safe and securing our borders are the highest duties of state. Our Prime Minister understands those duties, and so do I. We stand for the law-abiding majority of Britons. And in doing so, I draw on a long tradition of Conservative Home Secretaries who were willing to challenge failing orthodoxy. They refused to accept defeat. Michael Howard, on his first day as Home Secretary, was told that there was nothing that he could do about the inevitable rise of crime. He disagreed, and crime fell dramatically. They said that Theresa May couldn't deport Abu Qatada, the Islamist extremist, but, and despite setbacks along the way, she made it happen. Priti Patel negotiated a groundbreaking deal with our partners in Rwanda to bring forward a new solution for the challenge of illegal migration, providing protection in Rwanda for those that need it, whilst breaking the business model of people smugglers. I'm grateful to Priti and Boris for the foundations that they laid. Serious violent crime has fallen, as has overall crime, excluding fraud and online theft. And we are well on the way to 20,000 additional police officers. But a Home Secretary can never be complacent, and some things still need fixing. I'm pleased to be working with a brilliant team of ministers who I'm so pleased to see with us today. Tom Tugendhat, Tom Pursglove, Jeremy Quinn, Mims Davies and Lord Andrew Sharp, supported by our excellent PPSs, Gareth Davies and Sean Bailey. They all bring talent and expertise to the Home Office. Now, the Prime Minister and I want to see homicide, serious violence and neighbourhood crime fall by 20%. Some of our most committed and courageous people serve in the police. In Belfast, last week, I joined police leaders to pay tribute to those officers who have died in action. Their ultimate sacrifice is one for which we owe a huge debt of gratitude. So yes, I'm immensely proud of our police. Now, many on the left, they want to defund the police. Well, I say to the militants, I say to the anarchists and the extremists, no, I will always back our police, men and women. That's what being on the side of the law-abiding majority means. But we also need to be frank when things go wrong. Some police officers have fallen devastatingly short of the standards expected. We need to get back to common sense policing, empowering the police to tackle the issues facing the public, not policing pronouns on Twitter or non-crime. Not policing non-crime hate incidents. That's why I'm very pleased to see that Greater Manchester Police, Hampshire, Bedfordshire, Northamptonshire and the Metropolitan Police have all promised now to visit the scene of every burglary. But the law-abiding majority expect every force to investigate every neighbourhood crime, and so do I. Drugs, car theft, vandalism and antisocial behaviour cannot be ignored. Perhaps the most unsettling and unspeakable crime of all is rape. Now, as an MP and as the Attorney General, I've already seen firsthand how the system needs to do better. I can't change things overnight, but I will not accept the status quo. Now, policing is a public service and must be accountable to you, the public. That's why it's right that we publish league tables that show how well every force in England and Wales is doing in their fight against crime. You all have the right to know, and greater transparency will drive up standards. Now, the modern world inevitably brings new challenges. Our National Security Bill will ensure that law enforcement and intelligence agencies have the tools that they need to stay ahead of the country's ever more sophisticated adversaries. Yet everything starts from getting the basics right. We need common sense policing, unashamedly, unapologetically, on the side of the law-abiding majority. And that means that the mob needs to be stopped. The police must have all the powers that they need to stop the protesters who use guerrilla tactics and bring chaos and misery to the law-abiding majority. It's not a human right to vandalise property. It's not my freedom of expression to protest violently. No, you can't just start a riot or glue yourself to the roads and get away with it. Yes, friends, as Attorney General, I had to go to court to get some of these simple truths established. The judges agreed with me last week in the Court of Appeal in the Colston statue case. And that's why our Public Order Bill will empower our police to stop this nuisance. So whether you're Just Stop Oil or Insulate Britain or Extinction Rebellion, you cross a line when you break the law, and that's why we'll keep putting you behind bars. Now, it's very easy to say that the culture wars are a distraction. But make no mistake, the left are attacking our profound, elemental values, wanting to replace them with the poison of identity politics. And when this poison seeps into the public sphere, it distracts our public servants from doing their real job. That philosophy dominates the Labour Party, whatever Sir Keir Starmer pretends. And that's why it's not only wrong for the police to take the knee, it is wrong for them to join in with political demonstrations. It is wrong for biologically male police officers to strip search female suspects. And it's not just that pandering to identity politics is a huge waste of time. They need to stick to catching the bad guys. Now, those who dismiss political correctness as a conservative obsession, I say this. I say visit Rochdale, visit Telford. The grooming gang scandal is a stain on this country, and it's what happens when political correctness becomes more important than criminal justice. More PCs, less PC. Now, my other mission is to control our borders. Firstly, legal migration. Now, I backed Brexit because I wanted Britain to have control over our migration and to cut overall numbers. Brexit was meant to give us a say on how we determine our own migration policy. We should use our newfound control to deliver the kind of migration that grows our economy. For example, that helps projects that have stalled or builds friendships and relationships with our allies. But the truth is, parts of our system aren't delivering. We need to end the abuse of the rules, and we need to cut down on those numbers that aren't meeting the needs of our economy. And we mustn't forget how to do things for ourselves. There is absolutely no reason why we can't train up enough of our own HGV drivers or butchers or fruit pickers. The way we build a high-skilled, high-wage economy is by encouraging business to invest in capital and domestic labour, not relying wholly on low-skilled foreign workers. Now, this just isn't just about policy or economics for me. It's intensely personal. My parents came to this country in the 1960s from Kenya and Mauritius. They loved Britain from afar as children of the Commonwealth. It was Britain that offered them security and opportunity as young adults. I'm not embarrassed to say that I love Britain. No Conservative is. It's not racist for anyone, ethnic minority or otherwise, to want to control our borders. It's not bigoted to say that we have too many asylum seekers who are abusing the system. It's not xenophobic to say that mass and rapid migration places pressure on housing, public services, and community relations. I reject the left's argument that it is hypocritical for someone from an ethnic minority to tell these truths. My parents came here through legal and controlled migration. They spoke the language. They threw themselves into the community. They embraced British values. When they arrived, they signed up to be part of our shared project because the United Kingdom meant something distinct. Integration was part of the quid pro quo. Now, that didn't mean abandoning their heritage, but it did mean adopting British identity, an identity of which we should all be proud. This is the best place on earth to come and live in, but I fear that we are losing sight of the core values and the culture that made it so. The unexamined drive towards multiculturalism as an end in itself, combined with the corrosive aspects of identity politics, has led us astray. I saw this when I went to Leicester recently, a melting pot of cultures and a beacon of religious harmony. But even there, riots and civil disorder have taken place because of failures to integrate large numbers of newcomers. Such conflict has no place in the UK. Or when we look at the Prevent scheme, we see how cultural tensions within communities are not being handled well enough. The murderer of our much-missed dear friend, Sir David Amess, had been referred to Prevent, but it couldn't stop him. We cannot, as a people, be cowed into fear by vocal minorities who attempt to undermine our common sense instincts. And as Home Secretary, I will make sure that Prevent is fit for purpose. The law-abiding majority deserve nothing less. And lastly, we've got to stop the boats crossing the Channel. This has gone on for far too long. But I have to be straight with you. There are no quick fixes, and the problem is chronic. Organised criminal gangs are selling a lie to thousands of people. Many are drowning in the Channel. Many are leaving a safe country like France and abusing our asylum system. So what's our plan? Firstly, our work with the French has prevented about half of all the crossings. Now, I know that that alone will not work, so I will work closely with the French to get more out of our partnership, both on the French coastline and further upstream against the organised criminal gangs. Secondly, we need to find a way to make the Rwanda scheme work. Thirdly, we need to do more to get asylum seekers out of hotels, currently costing the British taxpayer £5 million a day. And fourth, we cannot allow a foreign court to undermine the sovereignty of our borders. For a few months ago, the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg did just that. By a closed process with an unnamed judge and without any representation by the UK, a European court overrode our Supreme Court. And as a result, our first flight to Rwanda was grounded. We need to take back control. But friends, I need to be honest with you. The Strasbourg court is not the only problem. Now, everyone agrees that we must fight the evil of modern slavery. I'm immensely proud of this country's global leadership in protecting genuine victims. But the hard truth is that our modern slavery laws are being abused by people gaming the system. We've seen a 450% increase in modern slavery claims since 2014. Today, the largest group of small boats migrants are from Albania, a safe country. Many of them claim to be trafficked as modern slaves. That's despite them having paid thousands of pounds to come here or having willingly taken a dangerous journey on the Channel. The truth is that many of them are not modern slaves, and their claims of being trafficked are lies. And it's not just illegal migrants. Since entering the Home Office, I have seen egregious examples of convicted paedophiles and rapists trying to game the system, making last-minute claims of modern slavery to block their removal from the country. Some have even gone on to commit further crimes in the interim. In one case, a convicted sex offender from South Africa had spent a year in prison. He was about to be deported from the United Kingdom, and lo and behold, he made a claim of modern slavery. Our removal was stalled, and in this time, he went on to commit a further rape. He's now behind bars, but when he's released, well, it's all so terribly predictable. In another case, a paedophile from Pakistan received 10 years in prison, but at the end of his prison sentence, he put in a spurious claim to be a modern slave. And even when he got through that process, he made a second claim, which blocked his removal. We simply cannot go on like this. We need to make sure that our system strikes the right balance. Our laws need to be resilient against abuse, whilst at the same time ensuring that we help those in genuine need. We've got a proud history of offering sanctuary to those in need, from supporting the thousands of BNOs fleeing persecution in Hong Kong, to welcoming nearly 20,000 Afghan nationals fleeing war and terror, to offering immediate refuge to thousands of Ukrainians fleeing Putin's barbarism. The UK and this Conservative government has always been there to hold out the hand of hope to those who need it most. But the law simply isn't working. It isn't working in the interests of the British people or people who need our help the most. Our laws are being abused. Abused by people smugglers and criminals peddling false promises. Abused by people making multiple, meritless and last-minute claims. Abused by tactics from specialist, small boat-chasing law firms. This cannot continue. So, Conference, I will commit to you today that I will look to bring forward legislation to make it clear that the only route to the United Kingdom is through a safe and legal route. And that's so that we can help support those who need our help the most, including women and girls. So if you deliberately enter the United Kingdom illegally from a safe country, you should be swiftly returned to your home country or relocated to Rwanda. That is where your asylum claim will be considered. UK policy on illegal migration should not be derailed by abuse of our modern slavery laws, Labour's Human Rights Act, or orders of the Strasbourg Court. And we will always, of course, work within the bounds of international law, but we cannot allow this abuse of our system to continue. And of course, at the same time, we need to stamp out illegal working practices. We already have some of the toughest penalties for those not playing by our rules, but we will redouble our efforts to go after them. But I need to be straight with you, Conference. This will not be easy. I cannot promise you a solution immediately. We've all heard pledges and promises, but this problem is complex and entrenched. And there are many forces working against us. The Labour Party will try to stop this. The Lib Dem will go bananas. The Guardian will have a meltdown. As for the lawyers, don't get me started on the lawyers. And I'm a recovering lawyer. But what I can pledge to you is my total and undeniable and unfettered and unconditional commitment to doing whatever it takes. And despite those obstacles, I won't give up on you, and I won't give up on the British people. very kind of you. I hadn't actually finished. My goodness. Now, if I don't get a standing ovation at the end, what do I make of that? Ladies and gentlemen, friends, conference, the time for words is over. Now is the time for action. It's time to put the will of the hard-working, patriotic majority at the heart of all we do. It's time for the police to stop virtue signalling and start catching robbers and burglars. It's time to tackle the small boats. No ifs, no buts. Friends, it's time for common sense. I stand ready to serve you. I stand ready to deliver. The time is ours. The time is now. Thank you, conference.
Please welcome the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly.
Thank you, thank you. A little bit of reshuffling going on there. Cool. Oh, look, thank you, conference. It's great to be back together. Great to be back as a party, as a family. And I want to say a big thank you to Jake Berry, our chairman, because organising a conference is a mammoth undertaking. And a big thank you to our staff, our volunteers, and of course a huge thank you to you, our party members. I loved being party chairman. I really did. I got a chance to work with you all. I got a chance to work with Ben, my co-chairman, and I got to work alongside Boris. And if I remember rightly, we did okay, didn't we? We got an 80-seat majority. We had a great team of MPs elected from all over our country. And with Boris's leadership, we delivered Brexit. He got us through COVID. And of course, he led the world in our support for Ukraine. It's a legacy that he should be proud of, and I was proud to serve under him. And it's a legacy that I know Ms Truss will build upon. And I've seen her take bold action when she was Foreign Secretary. Her steadfast support for Ukraine and the way she stood up to Russia. Her passion for the defence of our union and her determination to promote democracy and freedom around the world. And as Prime Minister, she is being bold now, helping with energy bills, ensuring that you can see a doctor promptly, reducing the taxes paid by ordinary, hard-working people across the country. I backed her from the start, and I know that I made the right choice. I am the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I have to confess, it still sounds a little strange coming out of my mouth, but it is an honour, a genuine honour, to be the face and voice of our country overseas. Okay, yeah, why not? I'm the UK's sales guy. And I like to think I'm pretty good at sales. I hope so. For most of my adult life, that's what paid the bills. But I know that however good a salesperson I aspire to be, the greatest salesperson the UK ever had was Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth. She was our greatest diplomat, our greatest advocate, our greatest champion. She genuinely was Elizabeth the Great. And I've now also had the honour of meeting King Charles. And I know he will work tirelessly to continue the work that she did and be our new great ambassador. During the funeral week of Her late Majesty, I was reminded of the standing that our country has in the world. And when I travel on behalf of our country, I'm lucky enough to see us, to see the UK as others see us. And I can tell you, the view of here from over there is really, really good. It's not a terribly fashionable thing to be proud of your country. But I am. So sue me. My mother chose to make this country her home. She was a young woman from Sierra Leone who adored this country then, just as I adore this country now. Indeed, I am from immigrant stock on both sides of my family. As I say, my mother came here from Sierra Leone in 1966, and my dad's family came here from Normandy in 1066. Look, there will always be people that talk down our country. They will belittle our achievements. They will underestimate our standing. Those self-loathing keyboard warriors who hate our country's every success and pray for bad news. Those are the kind of people who aren't happy until they're unhappy. They're the kind of people who want to stand on the sidelines, never contributing, only moaning and bleating. But that isn't us. That isn't this party. That isn't this government. That isn't this country. We aren't commentators watching on the sidelines saying, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. We are players on the pitch. We make a difference. We promote our values. We compete on the world stage for the things that we know to be right. We believe in freedom. We believe in the rule of law. And we believe that an aggressor cannot invade its neighbour with impunity. And that conference is why we stand shoulder to shoulder with those brave Ukrainians defending their homeland. And Britain has to have the strategic endurance to see this through until their victory. Back in February this year, at the United Nations, I said that if Putin was foolish enough to attempt to invade Ukraine, the Ukrainians would defend their country ferociously. And they have done just that. Their bravery and passion have been amplified by the arms and the training that the UK has supplied. And we will support them until this war is won. We will support them until their territorial integrity is restored. And we will support them until the last Russian tank is dragged away by the last Ukrainian tractor. We need to have the strategic endurance to see this through to the end. Because if we don't, we send a message to every potential aggressor that our resolve is fragile. And we cannot, we must not, we will not send that message out into the world. And if you are listening to this speech, Mr. Putin, or Mr. Lavrov, let me be clear. We will never recognise the annexation of Luhansk, or Donetsk, or Kherson, or Zaporizhia, or Crimea. They are Ukraine. And when Ukraine has won this war, and they will, then we will support them as they rebuild their homes, rebuild their economy, and rebuild their society. We will work with our friends and allies around the world to hold the perpetrators to account, to punish those who use rape as a weapon of war, to punish those who knowingly target civilian infrastructure, and to punish those who murder women and children. And we will not do this alone. We are a member of many international groups, the Commonwealth, NATO, the UN Security Council, AUKUS, the G7, the G20. And I intend to build more alliances, more friendships, more partnerships around the globe. That's why we have ambassadors and high commissioners and diplomats in hundreds of locations. It's why I and my fantastic team of ministers travel the world. Trust me. It isn't to pick up those giant Toblerones. Although I do like those giant Toblerones. Look, when there is a war, our work on the international stage is visible and it's obvious. Building coalitions of condemnation at the United Nations, for example. Coordinating sanctions against those who facilitate the war, working to ensure that the exports of food and fertiliser from those Black Sea ports can continue. But much of what the FCDO does is less visible, but no less important. I've just returned from a series of meetings in East and Southeast Asia. I paid my respects at the funeral of Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Then I went to the Republic of Korea and then to Singapore. In each country, I met with senior ministers. I met with members of the international business community. I set out the detail of the UK's Indo-Pacific tilt. The Indo-Pacific is a part of the world which is growing fast. And through trade agreements, cooperation agreements, and our ASEAN dialogue partner status, we are shrinking the distance between us. I spoke about the opportunities that are available to us all. And of course, I spoke about the role that China plays in the region and around the globe. I made our position clear that China could and should take a different path, that it should adhere to the rules and norms of the international community, and it should stop persecuting its people at home, and it should stop sanctioning my friends and colleagues in the UK Parliament. And whilst I was on the other side of the world, FCDO ministers were in the USA, in European capitals, in Africa. And a number of my ministers are overseas as I speak. Because we have to invest in our international partnerships. Patient but effective diplomacy. We invest time. We invest energy. And, yes, we invest money. Because that's how we generate influence on the world stage. And that's how we drive improvements in the lives of people overseas and how we improve the lives of people here in the UK. The development money that we spend, our official development assistance or ODA, it helps women and children who have been brutalised by conflict. It helps prevent starvation. We use our expertise in financial services through the British investment partnerships to amplify the money that we provide, to part fund green energy projects, for example, or to increase trade, or to stimulate economic growth in some of the least developed countries in the world. We don't just stand idly by and watch problems happen. We step in to improve things. We're not passive, but we're active. It's the right thing to do. It helps people that need our help, but it also helps people here at home in the UK. Why? Because safe, secure and prosperous countries don't generate refugees or hundreds of thousands of migrants. Safe, secure and prosperous countries don't export terrorism. Safe, secure and prosperous countries are good trade partners for us. So obviously, we want to see more safe, secure and prosperous countries. That is the active role our ODA, our official development assistance, plays. But just because we look to build prosperity in distant places, we mustn't forget the need to build prosperity closer to home. A good diplomatic and economic relationship with the EU and its member states is good for all of us. And we've worked closely on our sanctions packages against Russia and those Russians that have enabled the war in Ukraine. And I want to see more cooperation across the Channel and across the Irish Sea. And addressing the current problems with the Northern Ireland Protocol is key to doing that. And I want to ensure that we restore the integrity of the UK internal market. I want to protect north-south trade, but I also want to restore the balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, which has been disrupted by the protocol. I want to see all the communities in Northern Ireland represented again at the Stormont Executive, so that devolved government can be properly re-established. And I will work hard to get that done. Last week, I spoke to the EU's lead negotiator, Vice President Maros Šefčovič, And we agreed on our desire to reach a solution that works for all parts of the UK, especially the people of Northern Ireland. So we have the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill working its way through Parliament, and in the meantime, we continue to pursue a negotiated settlement which respects the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom and our single market, and supports the institutions of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. As I've discussed, my fantastic team of ministers, Vicky Ford, Jessie Norman, Leo Doherty, Zach Goldsmith, Tariq Ahmed, Gillian Keegan, well, we've got plenty to keep us busy. But it is a job worth doing. Promoting global Britain on the world stage. And I know that I speak on behalf of all the ministers and all the diplomats and all the civil servants in the FCDO when I say it is an honour to represent the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on the world stage, because this is a great country I am proud of, a country I love. Thank you.